Hey, this is Dennis, and welcome to another episode of the Grounded Reason podcast, where Joel and I discuss things like cord cutting, saving money through cord cutting, internet issues,
sorts of good stuff.
All sorts of fun stuff. Today, got a bit of a potpourri of things. We're going to talk about some news that's happening out there in the cord cutting world. We're also going to talk about, Disney is kind of in decline as of late. They've had some pretty big news hit them on subscriber losses, and it's not just ESPN anymore. And Joel and I are probably going to get into a bit of what some of our favorite shows out there right now in the streaming world.
Yeah, and honestly, there's so much good stuff.
Oh, I know.
I'm actually really excited about that.
It's too much stuff, really. Like I don't have enough time to watch what I want to watch.
I get told about like a new show by someone every time I talk to like a group of people.
I know. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's just like there's so much good stuff out there right now. So like first, like I wanted to kind of warn everybody out there. Sony has a way of doing this sometimes. They kind of just like drop things on their consumers without any warning whatsoever. PlayStation VUE today, like right before we started recording, actually just upped each of their services, like because they have the 3-tier. Though actually it's 4 tiers of channel offerings, and the entry tier was $29.99 and the high end tier was like 64 or something. They just upped them all by $10.
Yikes.
I know. So like
you're talking a 30% increase off the bottom tier,
and that's the one that cord cutters want. I mean, because that's the one that has all the basic channels that you'd want anyway. Everything else is kind of just, you might as well have cable still.
So here's what scares me about this. And why I think they're likely to get away with it, right? Because, so Netflix notoriously, did this years ago where you remember when they first were weaning people on to the streaming service, and they changed their pricing between the streaming service
and the discs.
Yeah, and everyone flipped out. Well, that was so newsworthy because it was such an anomaly, right? Most of us fall prey to like this thing called the sunk cost fallacy, right?
Right.
Which is basically like
you calculate all the money you've already paid.
Yeah, and you factor it in. It's the common expression is throwing good money after bad.
Right.
And so like what worries me about this one is people are going to go, well, I've already got my PlayStation. Right? Like I've already spent all of this. I've already invested time in setting up the platform and getting all my apps.
Yeah, but you can throw any platform on there.
Of course. This is that's a logical decision. But the reason why I think like the Sonys of the world won't pay the Netflix or the Netflix price in their shares is that a lot of people won't think about it that way. So I'm hoping at least all of our listeners, now that we're talking about it, will.
Well, yeah, see, Reddit went crazy because it was out of nowhere. Like somebody just like, there was a Reddit post that got like kind of like upvoted. It said, I just looked at my bill and it's $10 higher. And
I don't want to make Reddit mad here, but it doesn't take a lot to make them go crazy.
No, you don't. You don't have to do anything. A $10 unannounced, because a lot of times when you have, especially with the streaming services that are out there, there's like a month lead up. Like I'm announcing things on the podcast like a month before they happen because they're really good at getting the PR out there, and just letting people know what's happening. Sony just dropped this, and they have actually, now that I'm thinking about it, they have a really bad habit of doing this. I'm going to go way back. I used to play a video game called Star Wars Galaxies.
Oh, I remember that one.
And Sony Online Entertainment ran this thing. Now, okay, Star Wars Galaxies was kind of like, do you remember that video game Second Life?
Yeah.
Imagine Second Life in the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
Like you're either like, you're a smuggler or you're a weaponsmith, but it's a whole community of very different classes, and you just go in and you live your life in Star Wars, and people are trading and they're making stuff, and it was fun for what it was.
Right.
And there were no Jedis, quote unquote.
So it was just a virtual world.
Right, where except it's just Star Wars. But there were Jedis. But here's the cool thing that they did is there was like this, it was hidden in the game.
Okay.
And then like if you accidentally happened upon it, then you would just get this like the force is strong with you message, and then you could go do this stuff and become a Jedi. But you were like, they were rare and secret, and like, which was really, they had a way to work that into the game, which I thought was really impressive to kind of make it how it was like in the movie. Well, I'm kind of fast forwarding here because it's actually a long story. A lot of other stuff happened that kind of ruined the game along the way. But then one day they just decide overnight to kind of change the entire game structure from a community type, interactive thing to a more World of Warcraft level grinding thing. Right. And Jedi is a class you can pick as soon as you start a new character.
That's crazy.
They did it like overnight without like any announcement whatsoever.
So all the prestige of like actually finding
the community completely revolted because
it
completely changed the entire game. Like first you got the whole like it shifted from a like Second Life type game to a like World of Warcraft, like,
which is just very different.
Let's kill goblin game,
right.
Which is an extremely different type of game. And then they took the one cool thing out of it and like turned it into like okay, here anyone can do it.
Of course, because the people who were Jedi in this would have to have spent hours and hours and hours playing.
It was a lot of grinding once they figured out how to do it too, because like they had to go and they're like once they got the calling, it was like you had to do these tasks and they were really long and difficult. Involved like hours and hours and hours of playing.
So like you earned your stripes.
Right. And
whereas now a new person could come in and just set it up.
Yeah. So I mean, and that was Sony then.
Yeah.
And they're kind of doing the very similar thing right now with PlayStation VUE and just, okay, here, we're just going to raise the price $30. And they got rid of, because there's a slim tier and then there was like the original tier.
Right.
You had to go back and listen to the PlayStation VUE episode, but basically they released it all in the major market areas. They basically brought all the pricing in line with those packages in the major market areas and got rid of like there's no
lowest option.
Yeah, that's kind of what they've done here. They've gotten rid of, they used to call it the slim bundle. So there's no more slim bundle. It's all the original PlayStation VUE beta test that they put out there in the major markets.
Did they actually add any features?
No, they just raised the prices $10.
That's insane. Like, okay, so price escalation in anything is not that unusual, right? Like that's a pretty typical thing.
Yeah, but you wouldn't ease your customers into it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's normally like an annual increase of like 5% is what I see when I look at like software price escalation.
And you kind of do it the same time every year. So while it's not necessarily expected, you kind of get people used to it.
Yeah, you should more or less think about it. I mean, I know when I worry about this kind of stuff at work. Like, I think about, like, when we do an annual budget, it's typically, like, you have a vendor and they, charge you whatever they charge you, and you expect next year to be 1.05x, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes up by 5%. And if it goes up by more than that, you're in contract negotiation. Like, you're sitting down and you're talking about it with them. And there's an attorneys and like the whole thing, because that's just crazy, right? Like, what did you add to justify more than like a standard, above, 2.5 times above inflation, increase? Like 5% is a lot to go up annually.
Yeah, like anything above like 2 or 3% is anything that's above the CPI.
That's my point. And CPI has been floating around 1.9 to 2% for, I don't know, forever.
Right. And if you're going to make a big thing like that, like 33, you want to you want to make some news about it before you do it. You just don't want to go ahead and send people a bill. Well, anyway, they did kind of clarify this. They're going to anyone who is an existing customer, they'll give you 3 months now after the 3 months on the old billing cycle before they up you $10.
Well, and so if you do the math, right? Like, and I'd have to sit down and actually do it, but maybe that helps you out on this current year. But what screws you is that in the next year, you're starting at a higher base.
Right.
Right? You're starting at a much higher base than you ever would have.
Right.
Because
Well, I think people are just going to drop it. There's
I would.
There's too much other stuff out there
Yeah.
that is comparable, if not better.
I hope, I really do hope that they get whacked. Like,
I can't see how they would hang in there with. They're making the same mistake that cable companies make. They're looking, because I know for a fact, because actually here, there's a story just hit about Sling TV hit 2 million subs.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, Fierce Cable had an article, it was like a week or two ago, kind of like skirted under the radar, that the combination of DirecTV Now, Sony, PlayStation VUE, and Sling have around 3.1 million users. That's according to ComScore.
Right.
ComScore is a company that really they do a lot of metrics and measurements for advertising industry.
Yeah.
And I think they do some other things as well when it comes to statistics and metrics. But I know them from advertising. They said that, Sling TV has 2 million of those 3.1 million.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, that puts them in there with some of the big players. If you look at, I think the NCTA, which used to be the National Cable and Television Association.
Yeah.
Now it's like the Internet and Puppy Dogs Association.
Yeah.
They changed their name to something nice and pleasant. But they released it's an interesting list, because it was like the top 10 subscription services where they've kind of like put cable, and they've kind of, looked at the various streaming services and cable and pay TV packages and ranked them.
Oh, so they're looking at them as comps.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So the Netflix has 50.9 million. And so that's number one. AT&T DirecTV.
Yeah.
They're actually number 2 now with 25 because of the AT&T merger.
What have we been
DirecTV? I know. What have we been saying?
AT&T is positioned to take over the globe.
Yeah, and we're just talking, video subscription here.
Yeah.
Like they're equally well positioned. They're better positioned than anyone for the internet when you look at 5G coming down the pipe.
They really are.
So Comcast comes in at number 3 at 22.5 million. Then Charter at 17. Then Dish. Then Hulu at 12. Then Verizon Fios at 4.7. Cox at 3.9. Altice Networks at 3.7. The next one would be Sling TV.
Wow.
So, because I think Frontier's at 1.1 million.
What number were you at? Like,
they're 9. If you would look at it, they would be 9 right now.
Jeez, I was way off.
If you count, if you're subscription, that's counting subscription services and pay TV packages. That's a pretty healthy place to be, I would think.
Sling? Oh yeah. Is Sling? Isn't Sling owned by Dish?
Yeah, actually, you're right. They are owned by Dish. So that 13.5 for Dish kind of would make them, because I'm assuming, because I know Dish likes to count their Sling subscribers in and not separate them out. So they're probably at 11, which would actually put them under Hulu. But Sling would still be at 9.
Right.
In that. So
right.
So yeah, because they're a subsidiary of Dish Network. So, but I mean that's a big deal. 2.1 million people.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming that like DirecTV Now, and I know last I heard, I think they had 200,000 or 300,000. So I would assume that PlayStation is around 600,000 or 700,000.
That seems as a reasonable guess.
Yeah. So I mean, what I'm seeing there is that they're seeing themselves lag behind Sling TV, and
already,
they're trying to but instead of trying to get more subscribers and get market share, they're trying to milk the price. I don't understand that, especially in such a competitive market. Yeah, that would work in the cable TV game if you're a monopoly and no one could buy anything else. But you have
we're not talking about net neutrality.
I'm not. I promise I won't mention it.
Okay,
but
in the content delivery space, it's very competitive.
Yeah, right now it's super competitive. So I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know.
They're doing the same damn thing they did with Star Wars Galaxies. That's
all
what's
right.
happening
I'm
here.
sorry.
I'm very bitter
sorry
about
about
this.
what happened about
All 8 of us, the 8 people that played Star Wars Galaxies,
exactly.
are very angry
I
about this.
vaguely heard of it, so I probably gave too much recognition to
If you
that
liked
game.
it, you loved it,
Sure.
but most people didn't like it. So it had kind of a bad rep if from the outside. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people who didn't get it, like, hated it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
which was most of like the major game media, I would think, at the time.
I'm sure. And I mean, I remember playing, and I think people that like used Second Life would be irritated by the fact that I'm saying playing Second Life. But like I was playing Second Life, and I was like, yeah, it just doesn't seem that
right. Well,
that good to me.
Second Life is kind of like a bad. I mean, it's kind of there. I was just trying to convey an idea that people kind of knew.
Virtual world.
It's a virtual world, but there's like crafting and there's like combat, but it's all, you know, you're free to do whatever you want. Really, it's not. There's not like you have to. It's active. You want to decide. I want my character to be this, and you want to go do this thing. It's not
no
like
set script,
right?
But we've beaten Star Wars Galaxy to death. Right.
I think Sony did that.
Yeah. Well,
so, all right. So yeah, I'll move on. I'll stop being bitter about that. Last week I had the pleasure of interviewing the CEO of MobiTV, Charlie Nooney.
Yeah.
And he, I mean, if you didn't listen last week, his company has a platform which will basically allow a cable TV company to, or a pay TV company to use their platform to change it to IPTV. So you could basically create a streaming service. Like if I'm Comcast and I wanted to just unleash a streaming service, I could contract out to MobiTV. I send them everything, and then I'm streaming over any device.
Nice.
So that's what they have, and it's pretty. And his idea is basically he wants to bring, he wants to give pay TV a way to innovate and kind of join the modern market.
Sure. So he's a service provider. He's basically doing like a business to business transaction,
right?
So that consumers can grab that content through, you know, whatever service they hang out.
Yeah, but Mobi will be. It looks like they're going to be invisible to the consumer on this, but this is just kind of like it's a way. I mean, and I agreed with them. This is a consumer, because this is what consumers want. Consumers want to be able to stream their content and bring their own device to the party and basically watch it when they want to watch it. So it really only makes sense for. I mean, and it's going to take the pay TV industry a while to kind of get used to the idea of actually giving customers what they want. But I think he's right. I think
so is the idea to actually stream, like, let's say at the show level?
It's going to be like cable over the internet. It's basically it gives them the ability to turn their service into a Sling TV.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is, okay, so let's say I'm Comcast, right, and I've got just got a shiver saying that.
Yeah, when I said it earlier, I threw up a little bit in my mouth.
Yeah, it's so exactly. I have to take a shower when I leave. But let's say I'm Comcast, and I've got, you know, HBO content, and I want to hang it out there. Mobi would do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what if I'm HBO and I want to hang the content out there, but they want to break it up more than they've done with, like, what is it, HBO Go now? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, basically, if you have, you could, because I asked him that.
Sounds like you could.
I asked him the question if he has, you know, because if I'm a company and I just have a stable of content, I was like, would I be able to use your service to kind of create my own distribution channel? And he was like, sure. He's like, and I was like, are you seeing that happen? He says he's had talks about it. He says he definitely sees it something that will happen in the future, because it's just it's an easy way to get your stuff out there, because really it's a platform that'll allow you to it's kind of like bring your own content type of platform.
Yeah, and that's what I was really getting at, is like what I'd love to do. Like right now, the lowest I've been able to see things get segregated out is at the channel level,
Right.
like USA or HBO or etc., or at the provider level, right? Which is like just an aggregation of channels. So, the Comcasts or the Verizons or whatever. What I'd love to have is just at the actual show level, right? Where I'm just paying a couple bucks a month to just subscribe to a particular show that I like,
Right.
that I know I like, right?
Mhm.
Like, and forget, like, I'll take Game of Thrones as the example. Forget the rest of HBO. I don't care about it, right?
Oh, well, see, yeah, but I think, well, I mean, at that point, HBO owns the.
Of course.
Right.
But HBO, well, my point is, if HBO participated in it,
Right.
like if HBO was to say, hey, you know what? We'll cannibalize a bit of our market, but we think we'll make it up on the other side because we'll get so many people. And HBO or
Yeah, I don't know
Game
why
of Thrones is probably a bad example.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it actually hooks a lot of people into.
Right. Exactly.
But
So-
some of their smaller shows.
Yeah, or I would think more startups. Like you say, if it's like if you can't get distribution,
Sure.
depending what the price point is on using that platform.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a great idea where and in fact, that's not dissimilar from what Amazon does right now with like shows when they're first piloting them
Yeah.
on their platform, where they'll have like a couple of episodes for free, and then you can buy the next one like a la carte,
Right.
Like you just go buy episodes as you go. So it seems like a really good idea.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to bring it up because like you didn't get a chance to talk to him last week because you were out, but your Comcast is doing their own thing. If they're gonna put their own platform out like that,
Exactly.
But he's looking at targeting like your middles and small tier
Sure.
services, and there's a service called CSPIRE,
Okay.
and they're basically in a lot of Mississippi, Florida Panhandle. I think they creep into Tennessee a bit. But they're actually doing this. They're using their service. It was just announced today that they're going to be, because they offer like fiber gigabit internet for $80 a month, which is about the going rate for gigabit internet. And they can basically deliver television over it, and they're going to be using MobiTV to do it. Price point's a little high for what they're asking for, $65 for but it's a full blown. It's all your local channel. It's a cable package.
It's still moving in the right direction.
It's moving in the right direction.
And picking a price point is unfortunately much more art than it is science.
It really is.
So I wouldn't be surprised, like, they throw it out there and they go, ooh, well, we're going to have to figure out how to incentivize this. Maybe we drop our ISP side and, lower it by $10.
The TV video, the way they've structured it over the years, it's difficult because the content providers, like your ESPNs and your Disneys, they have a certain subscriber rate that they want for each one, and it's almost to the point now where they're not making any money off it, which sounds ridiculous, but they're really not making a lot of money on video right now because they've kind of backed themselves into a corner with these deals with their content providers.
No, they get eaten alive, like the ESPN stuff you were talking about.
Oh yeah, well well, to get into that, I'll get into that in a minute actually, because I wanted to just like keep an eye on CSPIRE because I want to see where this goes. I want to see how well they do here, because this sets up a situation where if you can supply internet, you have a platform to where you could provide TV.
Yeah. And I forget what the numbers were exactly. I think it was around 1,500 ISPs in the country, right? But most of them were very small players servicing like businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But it would still be, instead of right now, we've got what, like, would we say 9, 10, 12 players, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, roughly.
It would be really cool to see how much competition we get out of, doubling or tripling that number.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just curious to see which way the market goes, because you could also, and we talked about this on an earlier show, if you were an ISP, and I'm surprised more ISPs aren't doing this, but just pitch the whole cord cutting angle.
Yeah.
Just cut some deals with,
handful of content providers that are big deals.
Like cut a deal with Sling TV or with Hulu and say,
and that's that.
Hey, we'll give you X amount on every broadband connection we get that brings on your TV thing. If you give us, we'll buy in bulk or whatever. Right. And, we'll pay you this much, and then we can give them a deal to give them Hulu cheaper or something like that.
Right.
That just seems
like gobble up market share.
That seems like a natural marriage to me. I don't see why that's not happening more.
I don't know, and I'm a little surprised. Like, so see if this is crazy, but like if I owned, if I was one of these slower providers, right? Like, had DSL and so on out there, right? That angle you just pitched sounds very appealing, right? Like, because DSL in and of itself is archaic, right? And starting to phase out.
It's starting to phase out, but there's also some things they can do to where they can squeeze about 25 MIPS out of it.
Well, and that's kind of my point, is from a cord cutting perspective, it's enough.
It is.
And so if I owned something like that and I was like, well, how can I make myself competitive with all these people that are laying, fiber out there, right? All of a sudden I go, well, wait a second. I cut a really cheap deal from a cord cutting angle, and now I've got something that's competitive.
Yeah. And I know there's companies that do that because of the old Title II deals out there where, and I don't know, some of this carried over, like, because I know, like, AT&T is an example. Like, AT&T has to sell some of their back. Like, you can start a DSL company off of AT&T's network.
Yeah.
Now, you're paying AT&T to use their network, but you can get a little cut of that money by repackaging their, and basically you're just handling the management of it instead of AT&T. Like, it's really, you're just kind of, you're handling the business, the back end, the back office stuff.
You handle all the back office stuff and so on. And, AT&T owns the lines.
Exactly. Exceed, I think, is it's one of the companies I can think of that does that. But I mean, why not try to be, if you're one of those companies, try to cut a deal with some type of streaming service or some IPTV provider that can deliver television, and you have a leg up on your competition at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this is like the canary in the coal mine to see if this will work out.
You like that expression?
I do. I used it last week.
You used it a couple of weeks ago.
I do. I've been. It's like my new thing.
It's a good expression from someone who's got a lot of coal miners in their family. I will tell you.
Where you knee deep in dead canaries.
Oh, God. That's a bad image.
So Disney. Well, yeah. There's no. They don't have a cartoon canary, do they? No, I can't think of one at Disney.
Now, I was going to say Tweety Bird, but isn't that the WB?
Yeah, that's the Looney Tunes. My kid, they have no idea what any of that even is.
Yeah.
Like the Bugs Bunny just kind of just disappeared.
Yeah, what's up with that? Now that I think about it. What's up, Doc?
I don't know. Some of the earlier ones were kind of racy.
Did you mean racist or racy?
A bit of both.
Because Bugs Bunny did some very, very racist stuff.
He did.
Back in his day, round about World War II.
Yeah, a bit of both. But Disney, there are some concerns going over at Disney. Well, not only that, but I don't know how true this rumor is, because this sounds insane to me. But actually, it showed up in some investor rag that Verizon's kind of feeling around to buy Disney or merge with Disney. And I'm like looking at the capital, their like market cap, they're the same size. Like, Disney's just as big as Verizon.
All right. So the only thing I can think of is money is very cheap still, right?
Yeah.
But
that's huge leverage.
I don't know that would be like one of those merger of equals, right? Like,
it'd have to be. But I can't see that. Like, what the hell would Verizon want with theme parks?
I have no idea. So no, I don't see that being.
And
a
I can't
thing.
see Disney just
But-
like lopping off their content wing.
Yeah, and it's totally possible I'm wrong, right? But I just don't see that being a thing.
I don't see where any of that makes any sense at all. But then I saw this news on, like, we all know that, like, Disney owns, for those out there, I sometimes I assume these things and I shouldn't. Disney owns ESPN and
Right.
Disney owns ABC. They also own, pretty much everything I held dear in my childhood.
Yeah, well, Marvel
and Star Wars.
and Star Wars, right?
So
they own my youth.
yes,
That's what it comes down to.
So ESPN's been bleeding subscribers. I don't have the exact number, but I think it was like 8 million at one point. Like over the past few years, like they've dropped like 8 million subscribers, which only makes sense because ESPN comes with pretty much every basic cable package.
Yeah.
So,
well,
to me, it's a no-brainer. If cable's on the decline or pay TV's on the decline, and we've talked about how they've lost subscribers hand over fist. ESPN's just along for the fall there, it seems to me.
Well, and it's probably known by everyone who listens to this podcast, but like the little known secret to the most of the rest of the world is that regular cable subscribers have been subsidizing like heavy users of ESPN for years.
I'm not sure what the exact number is, but like I looked at it like 2 years ago and it was like $9 to $10.
Yeah, something like that.
Per
That's
subscriber.
The number I've
so
heard.
For every subscriber that sells a pay TV package, ESPN gets that subscriber fee from them. Now, the regional sports is really the most expensive stuff. Yeah. So it's like I saw like ESPN's the most at like 9 or 10. And then you look, I think the next in line are the, your regional sports networks. Like if you have, like we had Masson, they have the Y, I think the Y network, or all those Fox regional sports networks, NBC regional sports networks. Those run about $5 to $6 a clip. So 2 channels, we're already talking $15, $16 of your cable bill right there.
Yep.
And it just kind of,
and if you don't watch sports, that's a whole lot of money you're paying for value you're not consuming.
Yeah, when you're looking at something like Comedy Central, which I think was like $1,
right?
Like a subscriber, it's like if you're watching sports, your cable package would be a heck of a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of the there's companies that are talking that angle right now of just cobbling together a bunch of good content channels and just no sports. I bet you those would do really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly think, especially since you can watch a lot of sports with just a regular old antenna, there's no reason why someone hasn't already done that.
Yeah, so, but it gets past ESPN too, because now, like, Nielsen was showing data that the viewership at the Disney Channel and so like Freeform and like what used to be ABC Family,
right?
They were pretty much geared. So we're talking about your little kids and like your teens, because that's who's watching Freeform now.
Yeah.
They're seeing huge declines in ratings as well, and SNL Kagan, which is, I mentioned them, they're like a consulting group for Wall Street. They told the Wall Street Journal, that 2 Disney-owned channels each lost 4 million subscribers during the past 3 years.
Wow.
That's huge. Not only that, but Disney's like revenue stream. Well, like, okay, their profit, 43% of their profits came from cable TV last fiscal year. Disney, 43% of their profits.
Wow.
So that's a huge chunk.
Yeah, I mean, I knew
of Disney.
Yeah. I knew their content provider piece was big.
I didn't know it was that much. Yeah. I did not know it was that much.
And that doesn't count Marvel Studios or, Star Wars, or what is it, Lucas?
Well, I mean, that's in the denominator. It's like, this is just the cable TV stuff. This is like just the stuff that's in like, their channels, ESPN, ABC, Family. I guess they would count what ABC in that too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because ABC probably pulls in huge revenue.
Yeah, I would think, but
I mean, so when I read that, it depends, like, how bad Disney looks on the inside, which would be shocking to me, considering
Yeah.
all the success that they've been having on the movie side of the house with between Marvel and Star Wars. You'd figure that they'd be making hand over fist, but it looks like they're just kind of balancing out the debacle that's happening on their pay TV side of the house.
Yeah. I mean, and it's very painful in a company for your, the divisional breakout of your profit centers to shift. So what I mean is like, let's say there's the 3 big divisions in Disney, right? Like the cable piece, and there's probably more, but we'll just keep it simple. Cable, the studios that make movies, and then the parks, right? If it's a 40-30-30 split, right, or it was 2 years ago, and now it's starting to shift to where it's going to be a 30-40-30 or whatever, right? And like the studios are going to be making more of the money because the cable side is just not making that much anymore. That means, jobs are going to be lost, all sorts of stuff. That starts really cutting into how Disney actually operates.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess maybe Disney just might want to repackage some of that stuff and say, here you go, Verizon.
Yeah, not a bad idea. If you can do it, right? If you could carve it off, right, and then plow it into, I don't know, whatever the other big profit centers are. Let's say the studios. Maybe that's what you do with it.
Yeah,
who knows?
I don't know. It's just it's so.
I know that when I went to the parks, it looked like everyone on Earth was there.
Yes. Well, I mean, that place is insanity.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's crazy. And you will drive yourself legitimately crazy trying to find all the hidden Mickeys.
Yeah, well, my kids are that way too. Well, the funny thing is I'm generally cynical. Except when I'm there. It's like I did a whole bunch of Disney cocaine or something, and I'm just all like hopped up on Disney cheer.
That's what you don't know is that there is LSD in those magic bands they give you. So okay, we're speaking like Disney-ese here, but a magic band is like basically like a little, it looks kind of like a Fitbit wristwatch type thing.
It's either, depending on the person you are, it's either the coolest thing in the world because everything you need is basically to get. So like you go into a store and you want to order dinner, you just tap your band and you take the food, and it all gets charged to a card in the end.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of the spectrum, if you don't have that good outlook, then it's some kind of like scary dystopian future where you're marching to your death via your Disney overlords.
Which I'm somewhere in the middle. No, I thought it was great, right? Except that
I loved it.
I had a bunch of screaming little kids, so I'm just slapping my wristwatch thing.
It's like a casino
up against everywhere
because they've given you these chips. Like it's
very easy. It's not real money.
It's the chip proxy.
Until I get home and look at my credit card statement and I go, Disney.
Right. Like, can I have? Shut up. Here.
Just have some more stuff. Yeah. Go away.
Stick this in your face hole.
Exactly. Were you listening to me talk to my kids? That sounds like a quote.
Everyone, it's all the same. It's like a script you're given as a dad at Disney World.
It's in Disney World. It's Florida, and inevitably when you're going, it's like 150 degrees.
Yeah, it is the like 9th layer of hell.
Yeah. So fun was had by all. But anyways, yeah, interesting stuff going on in the cable portion of Disney.
It's all bad news anywhere you go.
It's that's not good.
Anybody who is like anyway connected right now to pay TV is having some trouble.
Yeah, at least any of the legacy providers, right? Or really.
Well, Disney was. It looked like Disney was a while. I remember there was a point where ESPN would never go streaming, and then like a year later, they're like, "Okay, we'll go on Sling TV."
I remember when we talked about that.
So they were kind of hesitant, and I don't know. It's like they've done okay in that space due to opportunities that others have presented them. but they're not really going out and kind of like making their own steak, it seems.
I'm really surprised too, right? Like, so you think about ESPN, the fact that there's like how many ESPNs? I mean, 8,
Yeah,
10,
I mean, it's a lot.
Whatever. It's a huge number. So you take those, you could probably sell so many of those as a la carte subscriptions. Like, because the people that are watching, MLS, like Major League Soccer,
Mm-hmm.
they don't care what happens in American football, or at least a lot of them, right?
Yeah, it tends to be pretty. Your soccer fans tend to be just pretty much all about it because it's always on.
Well, and my point is,
like anywhere in the world, there's soccer somewhere in the world at every given moment of the year.
That's right, and there are these people that love every single sport.
Yes.
But most people like a sport or two,
mm-hmm.
and that's what they like. So I would think like breaking a la carte services up, plays right to their strengths, right? Like, I don't know why they don't do it.
Well, see, that's the thing. Is like cord cutting. ESPN, a channel like ESPN, is like the antithesis of what cord cutting is all about.
Yeah, because it's an aggregator, and this is
and it's like something you just stick on when it's something that you want on in a bar, or you want on in like a waiting room, or or when you're waiting to get your hair cut. It's not something you're like, oh, I can't wait to get home and watch ESPN. Like, unless there's a sporting event on that I want to see.
Yeah, but imagine if ESPN, let's say ESPN, the Ocho, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had, I don't know, tennis, and you really like tennis, right?
Okay.
And which I don't, but I know, but we're just using tennis or whatever.
If you like tennis, that's fine.
Yeah, nothing wrong with tennis. Exactly. So let's say tennis. Tennis is almost a sport. I'm sorry. No, what am I talking about? I'm like a human spam.
I'm just jealous because I can't play tennis.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, I'm a big pudge ball. I shouldn't be talking about any sport. But anyway, so let's say you really like tennis, and that's what was on there, right? You could charge an amount if you're the company, right? You could charge an amount for getting the app for watching it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Get a charge right there, and then set a low price point, but get every tennis, fan, because that is a market. That is a serviceable market. You could even break up your channels more, right? Like, because on ESPN 8,
go real niche is really what you're kind of saying.
Exactly.
It's like, we're gonna be a tennis streaming network, and we're gonna be a all tennis all the time streaming network.
And you just do that with every division within ESPN, and you'd be fine.
Yeah, but I just like, it's so. I think it's culture issues. It's like the cultures of these companies. They're not seeing it that way. They've made money off bundling and bringing everything together for so long, and now that's just the world right now is just about being niche and just kind of being into all, like, there's something out there for everybody, it seems, and. YouTube's figured that out, and any music, it is the same way these days.
Yeah.
Like every
music was actually music and print media were the first two to go. Right? They were the first two to go, but once they went, it was inevitable with all forms of content.
Right. It kind of cracked open, and now like you have comedians now that produce their own albums and just put them out there. And
I'm sure Georgie and Penny are probably this way. Those Dennis,
my kids,
his daughters. But my kids absolutely do not understand when they watch television and they can't like pause it or rewind it. Penny, they don't understand.
She's like, what? Well, I tried to explain the radio to her because I listen to.
It does not work.
Well, I mean, I listen to like Apple Music when I'm in the car, and so I'll just ask I'll ask the car to play this song or play that song and whatever. But when she's in the Matrix, I don't have that. So I'll radio on, and Penny will say, well, I want to hear this. And I was like, but we're listening to the radio. And she's like, well, tell the radio to play the song. And I was like, it doesn't work that way, sweetheart.
Radio.
I know.
Please?
People think I'm crazy. But I was like, no. And then I said, there's a person somewhere playing these songs, and they're coming over the air, and that antenna right there is catching the signal and playing what the person is playing. And then I turn the channel, that's a different person in a different building doing it. And she goes, come on, Dad.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound.
Like, that is not.
That doesn't sound real.
She's like, that is not true. And I'm like, no, that's really what's happening. And she's
that
like,
is exactly what's happening.
She's like, no, come, just play that song I like
Stop
from One Direction.
Me. Right? No, and that's and my kids are the exact same way. So my point in bringing that up is that the horse is out of the barn, right? Like, so
right.
Like our generation is the last one that will accept things like I have no control over what I watch or what I read.
I think that's a great thing.
Oh, I do too. I'm just saying, and our generation accepts it when we're away from home base.
Yeah,
right.
What's weird about it is I look at my girls and I look at them and they're definitely like active on like choosing what they want. They're not going to just sit back and...
Yeah, they're not passive viewers.
Right. But that also gets to their personality where they're not like passive doing what I want them to do.
Yeah.
And while that's tough to parent, it's actually, I think...
long-term, very good.
I think it's going to be very good in the future. And I think I see a lot of kids like that. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, these kids today. And like, you know... I don't see why it's such a bad thing.
No, I think it's a great thing. Like, so my daughter, Molly, is uber independent, right? And she's, 5 going on 17. And, she's exactly that way and I think it's cultural, right? Like with all these shifts in technology that I can watch what I want, play what I want,
right? It's all connected.
Whenever I want.
You might think it's right here pulling this out of thin air, but I mean, when you grow up in an environment every day and you're used to being able to just get what you want out of something and have like an active experience with it, that kind of translates to other things as well.
I was listening to something, I think it was on NPR, on the radio.
Oh.
Right? And it wasn't a podcast.
Yeah.
It was the actual radio.
They make radio?
Yeah, it's still a thing. Magic Box.
I always wondered what the R stood for.
Yeah, exactly. So
National Podcast. I got nothing.
So and they were talking about, and this is just like a cultural shift, and I thought this was funny. So like when we were kids, if the cliche, at least, I don't know that this actually ever happened in my life, but the cliche, actually I know it did, was if you liked a girl, you might make them like a mixtape, and eventually it became a mix CD.
Yes.
Right? And it was like a lot of thought and effort, particularly when it was a mixtape.
Oh, yeah.
Because you had to work you had to stop that thing at the right time, and like, it was a little easier when it became
you didn't have
CDs.
the song and there was a song you wanted
to get off the radio.
You had to get off the radio, and then you hope to God that the DJ doesn't bumper the big end of the song. Like,
I totally had stuff like that. I absolutely did. I had that song.
All right, like no one knows what we're talking about.
Okay, well, it happened. No. It was a thing. So anyways, like now, the whole idea of like, you gave someone a mixtape, and it was like, I worked on this. Like, I did this for you. And it was a big deal, right? Like, that's not a thing. Like, a playlist, like, anyone can build a playlist.
Right.
Right? And, like, I can go get any song I want pretty much any time I want.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. Right? Like, so...
No, even if I was going to make you a playlist, it's not, like, the level of effort. I just, like, pop open my phone and... I just like type. I gotta type.
Heck,
like
Spotify makes me playlists,
10 or 15 things, and
like I don't need anyone. Exactly.
Yeah.
So my point is like this stuff is cultural, and again, like it's not going back, right? Like we're not going back to everything being bundled, and there's no choice in the market. It's just gonna keep going this way.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, so before we get to what we're watching on streaming, just one quick thing. Now, in the media, Netflix tends to be like the gold standard when everyone talks about streaming.
Yeah.
An interesting survey was just released where let me get I think it's called M Science. It's an analyst for M Science, Corey Barrett, said that in all this cord cutting data he's been looking at, they basically went and they asked viewers of various services would they think about cutting the cord, and Hulu is actually the biggest driver.
Really?
Yeah, while it's one of the smaller, it's because it's much smaller than Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, in the US it's 5-1 Netflix to Hulu.
Yeah.
But it's like double of the percentage for Hulu. Like if you ask them, are you planning on cutting the cord? You double the response from a Hulu person. Yes, a double on the affirmative. If they had Hulu. So that's and it kind of, when you think about it, it makes sense because Netflix is movies and originals and everything, but Hulu actually gives you what's on television.
Sure.
The day after. You can watch a lot of shows that are on broadcast and cable a day after.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it does make sense now that you actually think it through. But my reflexive answer would have been a Netflix
or an Amazon Prime, or yeah. I probably would have said Amazon Prime just because there's you can go buy a la carte too. And while you don't have to have Prime to do that, it's kind of you're more inclined because you see it. You're more inclined to just buy a la carte.
And every time I get ready to say my favorite service is Prime, I then pause and say, but what about Netflix? And then I do the same whenever I get ready to say Netflix. I like them both a lot.
Yeah.
They're just different.
Yeah. And I mean, if I had to, I carry both now just because because I have the blog and all this stuff.
Well, but you get Prime for the shipping.
Yeah, that's true too. But I mean, I carry more services than I would, but don't think you have to. And plus you can juggle them. If you're a big fan of the Netflix originals, you can just pick up Netflix for the month that they're out, watch them all, and then just dump your subscription.
Yeah, and that's pretty awesome.
And a lot of people, that's the cool part about it, is you can actually watch everything you want on your own time and pay. I'll carry this service for this month, and then I'll drop it, and then I'll pick up this one and watch what I want on that network. It's
in a lot of ways, it's actually very similar to what you get with Amazon if you're already getting it with the with shipping. Because one of the really cool things you've pointed out with Amazon is you can just go buy a whole series, right? And it works out.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the price point works out. If you're only watching, if you buy a handful of shows, because it's $25 a show for a season, but you get it next day. And remember, how many cable TV shows are you really watching anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, I only watch, when I cut, I was really only glued to 5 or 6. So if you do that, it's $125, $150. Over 12 months, you're talking about $10, $12 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you own the show. So
you watch them again if you want.
Yeah, you watch it whenever you want. So speaking of watching shows.
Oh, yeah.
I want to actually kind of make this a thing because we don't talk enough. We talk a lot about
the tools and
how to do it, but we really talk about occasionally we'll riff about, Evil Dead and things like that. But
okay. So why don't we do 2 that you're watching now? And
okay,
I'll
right
do
now.
The same thing.
Well, I just finished Glow. Now,
I've heard about that.
Is that
the Ladies of Wrestling?
As a child of the 80s, did you ever see the original Glow?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, for obvious reasons, right? But I think Glow came right after was it NWA, right?
Oh, no. What you mean airtime?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would air. That's the funny thing about wrestling.
It would air late at night in the Baltimore area.
Well, it would, but it would also air, I think when they first put it on, because wrestling, it was the funniest thing. Wrestling would be on at noon, I remember, on the weekend. Which was really funny. I can't imagine, because that's what are we going to show kids?
Well, and most of the time they were recorded in the evening and replayed.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, and especially like Glow was like hypersexualized, right? Like,
it definitely was that. A, B, it was like I forgot, and Glow does the Glow the TV show right now, which by the way stars podcasting god Mark Maron.
oh wow,
Yeah, so he's in it. And Alison Brie, who I love.
Okay.
I love Alison Brie. She's Mad Men and Community, and she's great. And she's hysterical in this. And the show's very quirky, but it's by Genji Cohen. She's doing.
Yeah.
She actually does the other show that I wanted to talk about, which is Orange Is the New Black.
I've been watching that too. We'll get into it.
Yeah. So the thing about Glow is they were basically they did what wrestling did, and let's take the stereotypes of the day and just make a caricature out of them. But Glow, like, okay, yeah, you had the in regular wrestling, you had like the Iron Sheik, okay, and he's Iranian or whatever, and they did that whole spiel. But in Glow, they were just very like they would like just name a girl like Beirut. Like, and they were just like they weren't even pulling punches like in Glow. It was just like there was like no
just like, oh, she's Taiwan.
right.
Like that's not a name for a person.
I know.
Place.
Right. And obviously she would be like,
they're nouns.
Here,
I
right.
mean,
you're gonna walk to the ring with like, a headband, and you're gonna go and shoot a gun. Like that's what they would do.
Thing,
it was ridiculous. But Glow like just like did that, and then some. Like
fantastic.
they had a black woman character. Her name was Welfare Queen. Like,
oh my god!
Like doing a send up of like the 80s like ridiculousness with the stereotypes.
That is not good.
But
it's fantastic.
It was the social commentary of the day, because it's so, and like I'm sitting there and I'm watching it with my wife, and I'm like, man, that was like during my lifetime.
No, in a lot of ways, I sometimes forget how nuts the 80s were, right? Like, it's only retrospectively that I go, oh, yeah, that was a really weird time.
Yeah.
Like things like Glow, and there's a lot of really good biographies now that have been done on, like, professional wrestling and things like that. And like looking back into the 80s, it's a weird
really is.
Period in America.
You know what? Let me clarify, because if you don't know, you might think that this is just, people doing wrestling. It's not. It's imagine like it's like a league of their own.
Yeah.
Except wrestling. So, and that's like a really perfect analogy, because Mark Maron's character is much like Tom Hanks's character in a League of Their Own, except he cusses a lot more and is, instead of, he has many more vices. so but it's a good, it's like, it's like it kind of follows the formula of like a League of Their Own, but with the social commentary kind of.
So what's it on?
in.
Netflix?
Yeah, it's a Netflix original. It's a half hour, 10 episodes. Takes no time to binge watch, but it's definitely worth it. It's pretty funny. And, like Mark Maron is great in it. So
he's great, period.
He is, but I mean,
he's great in everything.
It's worth watching just for him. So, I mean, which one did you want to go with?
All right, so this is like I'll start with my lightweight one. Right?
Okay.
It's a show called Catastrophe.
Oh, I don't know this one.
It's actually in season 3 now, and it's a British sitcom, but it's an American man and an Irish woman in London. They meet up and like have casual sex, and she gets pregnant.
Okay.
And like they decide to get married, and hilarity ensues. And like think of it as do you remember the part like where Seinfeld ended up, where like they're basically the worst people on earth?
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, like the last episode, like
right,
where they
exactly.
Go,
very bad man, right?
They go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. They go to jail, and they're the same people in jail, right? So Catastrophe is like they're the worst married couple imaginable that's still kind of endearing, right? Like, And they have,
so my grandparents.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's exactly who was modeled up. No. So great show on Amazon Prime. Got like, I think it's an 8.2 on IMDb out of 10.
Oh, cool.
And was nominated for
And you say it's a British show?
Yeah, it's a British sitcom.
What's it on?
It's Amazon Prime.
Okay, sorry.
And it was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing for a Comedy Series. And
you know what? I saw that advertised. So check it out.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's hilarious. And like there are moments where my wife will actually, because Anne, like she watches it with me, and she's not normally into like, super vulgar comedy, but they do it in such a way that is like the people in the show are dealing with stuff that parents deal with, right? They're just bad people, right? Like that's it. That's it, right? Like, but they're not evil, right? They're just bad. They're very flawed, right? Like, so it's on the same spectrum of like regular life.
Oh, there's a great show like it's on Hulu. It's the same kind of thing except more, Americanized and comedy kind of difficult people.
Yeah.
It's got the guy from Parks and Rec.
Okay.
But he came in like the last season. He yells a lot. I can't think of his name. I'm blanking on it. But it's really, really, it's a funny show.
Same basic idea.
It's just but they're not married. It's like he's a gay guy and his female friend who's a blogger, and they're just awful. And they're just awful to everyone. And
there must be something about watching comedies with just terrible people.
They're just terrible, terrible people, but it's hysterical. And
like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is another one where they're just scumbags, and they're hilarious.
I love
I
these
don't
shows.
know why.
There's a show coming out called, I think it's just called I'm Sorry or something like that. My wife showed me the pilot of it, and it's that kind of show, and it's also hysterical. And Jason Mantzoukas is in it, so
Jason Mantzoukas
from The League and from one of our favorite podcasts. How Did This Get Made?
How Did This Get Made?
Yeah.
And he is a hilarious guy. He's also in The Dictator.
Oh,
the movie The Dictator.
So,
do you want to go next? Or do you want to go?
I'll close.
All right. So my big one, and this is like a 2 thumbs up, is actually that's not a thing. We're not going to start doing thumbs up.
Or like snaps in a circle. And all that stuff.
Snaps. You got to stand up and actually do it. You got to do it. Almost no one got that.
No,
reference
you'd have to go way
color,
back. You'd have to go back to like
1988
to get that reference.
But is The Handmaid's Tale. Now,
oh, dude, that's awesome.
And so this may be an obvious one. Like probably a lot of our listeners have already watched
If you have Hulu, though, that's the thing.
Yeah, if you have not,
it's worth picking up Hulu.
Man, it's worth picking it up
for a month,
at least to watch it, because it's disturbing, right?
Very.
Like it's a drama, and it's a dystopian drama for those that don't know, about the United States and it's
based on a book.
It's based on a book from the 80s. I forget the author's name. Basically, what happens is the United States, there's a coup by a theocracy, and they set up like a theocracy in the United States that takes.
But the theocracy started because a plague kind of happened where
women it was fertility plague.
It was a fertility plague, and a very, very, very small part of the population could actually have kids.
Yeah. So imagine a world where all of a sudden, almost no one. I mean, it's
and it's a women. The women
almost no women were fertile,
right?
Anymore.
Except for a small group. I said that kind of wrong in the beginning. It's not that people can't have kids. It's that women were mainly infertile, except for a few.
And so you get to this point where it's basically what would society look like if that were to happen, right? And the world they lay out is basically, a theocracy takes over the United States, and they have to come up with a rationale for the state taking over the bodies effectively of the few remaining fertile women.
Right.
And the things they do are monstrous.
Very. And it's and the thing about it is they do such a good job of kind of painting this monstrousness as day to day.
Yeah,
in the show,
it's a creep, right? Meaning it's a slow creep in you can see it evolve, and like the very first episode, they really just lay out the boundaries of that world,
right?
So you know what world you're in, and then the second, I think it's the second or the third, they're basically like, how the hell did we get here?
Right.
And they start laying that out.
What I found fascinating about the show is I'm sitting there and I'm looking at one of the characters that are in part of the theocracy. And I'm sitting there trying to think. It's now, do they see themselves as, are they questioning this at all? There's points where you can tell that they
get the impression
that they are.
Yeah. But
go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, that's what I think is really so great about the writing of this show, is that all of the characters, particularly the main character, who is one of the actresses from Mad Men, I forget her name offhand.
She's also in Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth Moss. Peggy Olsen was the character on Mad Men.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And she's fantastic.
She's great in this.
But I would say one of the things that's so great about the show is that all of the characters really get developed pretty thoroughly. And I think you're talking 12 episodes, 13 episodes.
Yeah, about that.
Somewhere
in there.
So like a normal, drama length first season,
Yeah, and they did a good job of setting up, because it's in the book, while it covers a lot of because I read the book in anticipation of the show, but I didn't get through it because the show came on and I didn't want to delay the show.
Right.
So I just watched the show and didn't finish the book.
Yeah.
But my wife finished the book and I talked to her about it and she was like, they did a good job because they stayed mainly the book is covered, but the show is done in a way to leave it open for more seasons, where the book kind of ends. Actually, it kind of ended where the show ended. It leaves it more, there's more of a ending to it.
Well, and my wife read the book as well, and she said basically is as good and as bleak as the show is, the book's even more bleak.
Oh, it's terrible.
But I don't want to bum you out, but if dystopian fiction is your thing, which a lot of people like it.
Yeah, and right? this ain't no Katniss Everdeen.
No,
this is way worse. So.
No, this is much, much worse.
This isn't the real dystopian fiction.
Yeah, this is really bad. But if that's your thing and you want to see a really good drama, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, so. It's probably one of the better shows in a while. Honestly, it was really good.
I'd say it's as good as almost any show I've ever seen.
Yeah,
right?
It's up there.
The quality of the acting and everything is probably I don't think I would change anything, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty good, great.
Yeah. So then getting that, and this one's been on for a while, so this is kind of this is a softball here. But I wanted to mention it because I just finished the last season of Orange Is the New Black, the latest season of Orange Is the New Black, and I've been watching it. I think they're in there.
We haven't finished it.
Sixth season.
So we've got 2 episodes left.
Okay, this season has been the best.
It's bonkers.
I think it's been, because 1 was great, 2 was great, and then it kind of I liked the middle seasons, but I didn't feel they were as good as the first 2. This one I think is, if it's just as good, if not better than the first season.
And I would say what I like about this season, and this is one of the shows, I did this with my
well, real quick, so if you don't know, I'm sure a lot of people probably know what the show's about, but it's basically Again, this is Genji Cohen. She did Weeds. That was her like claim to fame. She did the show Weeds, and it's basically I would say like a white kind of upper middle class, just out of college, kind of professional girl, fell in with some bad people earlier in life, and chickens come home to roost, and she has to go serve time in prison. And that's how the show starts. But then as time goes on, it turns into more of an ensemble show that's less about her, and it's more about the different women,
the female prison in this prison. General,
but it's really a dark comedy / drama. It's a dramedy.
Yeah, it's a very dark comedy. Really, and it's a great show.
Oh, they do a great job.
Everyone on there is, hilarious exactly when they need to be hilarious.
Dramatic when they need to be. They have a lot of range. There's a lot.
They're great.
Every actress on that show has a lot of range.
And the actors.
Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a couple.
There's, the warden is great. He's, that's who Dennis was referring to. And, the guards, most of the guards are male, and
that's true.
They're all pretty funny. In their own right and interesting, except for the one guy's not that funny.
Stash? Porn Stash?
Yeah.
He's pretty awful.
Yeah, he's pretty awful. So, but
are you talking about the guy this season?
That
season. Guy too. Yeah, I was thinking of Porn Stash is actually funny at times. That was like season 2 or 3.
I'm trying to remember. But yeah, I mean, like they're on season. Is this 6?
I think it's 6. I think it is. I'd have to look.
That sounds right.
My wife, if she's listening to this podcast, would drive her nuts because she hates when I make like small little flubs on TV. She is like a walking TV encyclopedia for some reason.
And Anne,
she used to work in TV, so
right. And Anne loves Orange Is the New Black. Like it's one of her favorite shows.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's it's one of those shows where if we put it on at night, I kind of get annoyed because Allison falls asleep before I do.
Yeah.
And I'll want to watch another one.
Yeah, that's where we were last night. Literally last night.
And I can't because it breaks nuptials.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anne would cut me.
There'd be no more podcast if I were to hit play.
Exactly. Well, and my another thing that's interesting about the Orange Is New Black is that, sometimes she'll start watching it and I'll be doing something, so I'll miss like the beginning or whatever. I find it extremely watchable. Like you can sit down in the middle of it and be like, okay, I know, like I don't know the subtleties,
right?
But I can still enjoy it.
Yeah,
right?
And I think that gets back to the acting, and the writing, because it just kind of grabs you, and they're very engaging.
Really
all the characters are really engaging.
They're very, very good at it. It's the direction, and like somehow they are constantly keeping you up on what has happened before enough.
Yeah, and then there's like
I don't know how they do it.
And there's a lot going on in the show, and there's all these like there's also like these little things I noticed, like there's 2 characters in the show that have pretty much been tied to the hip since the first season, and they're both like meth heads that were like sent into prison. And
they're hilarious.
They're hilarious. One of them was Amish. At one point, and then she left under Rumspringa, and now she's in prison and she's in there. But they're like cracked out R2D2 and C3PO. Yeah. That's really what they are. It's like because they kind of like they're just going around the prison, and every once in a while you'll get this warped view of the prison from their eyes, and it really is. It's kind of like the R2D2
I couldn't
and
help
C3PO
myself last night.
The show.
I just kind of blurted out, "Fucking meth heads," right? Like last night when I was watching it, they're just so crazy.
They really are. So all 4 shows we mentioned. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. I'm sure a lot of people out there have seen Orange Is the New Black. But if you haven't, or you walked away from it after like season 2,
this is a really good season.
This season was probably one of the best. So I guess, on that note, we've been at this for an hour and 15 minutes. So it's time to play the music.
Sounds good.
All right. If you enjoy the show, hit subscribe on your iPhone or wherever you're listening to us. Or you could leave a review.
We love those.
Those are nice. 5 stars, please. And podcasts, the spread best word of mouth. So if you're digging the show and, or you want to help someone cut the cord, or you think just Joel and I are fun to listen to for an hour, and you think a friend would enjoy us, let them know.
Yeah.
That's the best way to like kind of get us out there. And, you know, the more
really
people that listen, the
appreciate it.
longer we'll do this stuff. Hopefully you're liking the show. If not, stop listening. Because
yeah.
why are you torturing yourself?
Why would you keep listening if you didn't like it?
I don't know.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, if you have a question or a comment or a quement, as Chris Hardwick likes to say, you can email us at podcast@groundedreason.com. You can follow us on Twitter @groundedreason. You can check us out on the Facebook page. Just search for Grounded Reason. It'll turn up. Or you can head over to groundedreason.com and, you know, leave a comment on an article that you liked or you hated and you just want to, like, you know, give me what for.
Yeah, it's always good.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This is Dennis Restaro.
And this is Joel Reeves.
And we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.